Hello, Professor Henry. I'm going to be going over Milestone 2. Um, so I'll just kind of work my way down the list here and then talk about each thing as I go. So the first one here is the Milestone 1. Checking to see if the character still moves and then if the camera still tracks. I'll go ahead and showcase this right now. As you can see, the player still moves. All of the animations and stuff still work as he's holding a weapon. The camera's still tracking the player. It'll still follow the player around, stuff like that. Variety of weapons. So right now I have multiple prefabs of weapons. I have like a big weapon, which is what it's equipped right now. I have a pistol, and then a rifle, and then like a Uzi or something that I'll eventually do. Um, but I can't get the equip correctly to work. Um, I have the equip functions, that way the weapon will equip to the player, and the weapon can unequip from the player. Um, I also have it to where like it'll spawn the weapons and stuff like that, and I only have one shoot function right now where it's kind of like the rifle, where it'll just shoot one, wait a couple seconds, and then shoot again. I will add the other different types of shooting mechanics, and eventually, right now I'm still trying to figure out that equip weapon system. So at the moment, the weapon is attached to the player because I discovered a bug with inverse kinetics that I have to try to fix right now. So at the moment, the player still has the weapon as prefab, but as you can see, like the inverse kinetics still work with it. I can shoot and stuff like that. I do have like a pistol up here that the player can pick up. It just won't switch the weapon out for the between it. Um, but if I on the main character in the pawn, I have like an equipped weapon. That will showcase like what weapons equipped currently with the player. But if I do that, where if it spawns in, the inverse kinetics doesn't work with it at the moment. So right now, just for purposes, I'm just have it equipped to the player until I figure out a way around it. Um, but I'll go ahead and showcase the scripts. So this is the weapon class script, which will hold all of the weapons mechanics, like the game object bullet, the hand point positions for the weapons, the shot time, the in between shot time, delay in between seconds, and then the speed of the bullet as well. And I have it set to in the void update. If the player clicks the trigger, do this. So if the player clicks the left trigger on the mouse, it will then check the time to see if a bullet's been created. If not, start a timer and then instantiate the bullet creating it. It'll also create the physics of the bullet and allow the bullet to be controlled. And then it will also add a time to the bullet, allowing the bullet to live a certain amount of time. And then it will either despawn, or if it hits an object, it will destroy. And then it will also delay how many times between the bullet. So this is the main class, but if I go to the rifle weapon, as you can see, all that the rifle weapon holds is like if the trigger is pulled, if it's hold down, if it's released, stuff like that on what it can do. Um, but as you can see, there's no variables within the rifle weapon script, but it's calling the weapon class script. So what that means is because it's doing that, if I go to the big weapon, as you can see, all the variables that were in the weapon class script are being showcased in the rifle weapon script, and that is because the rifle weapon script is a child of the weapon class, allowing all of the variables that are in the weapon class to be shared with the rifle weapon script. So that is how that's all working. With the right and left hand point, that allows both the arms to attach to the weapon. Kind of look like the player is holding the weapon correctly. I also have the bullet prefab down here with a function or a script here with a bullet lifetime and a damage indicator. So that way the bullet will damage an enemy or an object or whatever it chooses to do. If I go into that script, all it is the lifespan of the bullet, the damage the bullet can do, update, destroy the projectile based on the lifespan, and then if it hits a collider, which is an enemy right at the moment, the enemy can take damage, and then the object of the bullet will also get destroyed, which I showcased in game, that the player can shoot one time at a moment, and then that it'll create another bullet. The second one, the inverse kinematics. As you can see, if I go to my animator, I have the inverse kinematics clicked here, so it's all working. Um, but if I go ahead and remove this from the weapon, I go to none, and if I click play, the hands are kind of stuck in the rifle position, as you can see, and they're not really holding the weapon. But if I reattach this to the weapon for the weapon class, and now I click play, as you can see, the hands moved to the right hand and left hand position points that are on the weapon, making it feel and look more like the player is actually holding, like if he was holding a weapon in real life, this is what he would do. So the right hand's kind of holding the trigger and the left hand's holding the weapon up. So if I go to code in the pawn, what I have for variables is a weapon class that allows the transform points for the weapon to be showcased, and allowing it to be called for the pawn to react to the transform points. And then if I go all the way down to the onAnimator IK function here, what this is doing is it's checking to see if there is a weapon, have the right hand take position of the right hand point and set it there. It'll check to see if there is one, set it to 1, and that means that animation will take over and be more of a priority than the standard rifle animation. If there is no weapon currently attached to the player, it'll just go into its default stance, acting like it's not holding a weapon. And it is the exact same thing for the left hand point, except it's the left hand. So that is how the inverse kinematics work. What it does is it allows the animation to adjust and focus on transform points that you set. So like if I wanted to have a ladder in here, it could set the arms to go to the certain points that I put it. The next one here is pickups. Show in game that the player can pick up a weapon by walking over it. As I kind of talked about earlier, I haven't been able to fully figure out how to get the weapon to equip, but I can pick up a weapon, showing it, and then I can also show that I have a pickup that the player can use to heal. So I'll go ahead and showcase that. So as you can see, I have, that's the enemy right there that spawns, but I have two pickups here. This is kind of the damage pickup here, that if I kind of walk over it, I'll take damage. And as you can see here on the UI and in the health, that my max health was 10, but I took 5 damage, and that is what my current health is. But if I go over here to this little health pack, it will then heal me up by 1 because that's what it's set at. So that is the like a damage pickup and a health pickup. But if I go ahead and go over to like the pistol here, I can pick it up, but it doesn't equip. But the pickups all work and function. These currently do not respawn because I haven't set it that way yet, but I will in the future. So how these work is I have a set pickup script that each pickup can instantiate on and react based on this. So I have an on trigger enter with a collider. If the pawn collides with this object, call the on pickup function, and what that does is it will then have the pickup react to whatever you set it to. So like the health pickup will heal the player, the damage pickup can damage the player, etc. And then if you pick up that item, it will then destroy the game object. So if I go ahead and go over to the health pickup, because the health pickup calls the pickup script, I don't have to set a on trigger enter function or a destroyed object function, because what's that doing is it's calling those functions directly from the pickup script, allowing each script to just react the same without having to go into each individual script. So what this health pickup script is doing is once that player picks up this health pickup, it will then heal the player to a certain amount that I set it to. And then what it'll do is it'll give like a default bug saying, hey, you picked up the item, and then it will just call the pickup, which will then react with the health script that I have, which is the on heal function, where it calls this one. It will then add health from the amount that I set the pickup to the player, and then if the player is at max health, don't add any more health to it. So that is how the pickups work for right now. If I go into the inheritance, polymorphism of code, pickup, and weapon, so how that works is it's similar. It will then instantiate the pickup here when it spawns. So I do have a spawn object script here. That is, let's see, that's the enemy spawner. I guess I didn't add a health pickup. Well, it's the same thing with it's the same thing. It's just different prefab. So if I go into the spawn pickup, this spawns the enemy right at the moment, but I can set it to health or damage or any type of pickup, weapon, etc. So what this does is it allows the game object to be called for the pickup. It will then delay the spawn of the pickup. It will set the spawn timer for the pickup. It will get the position of the object that is currently attached to the pickup. And then it will also call, if there is an object, put it in the spawned pickup section. So what it will do here is in the update, if there is an item that is currently spawned in, do nothing, go to null. Don't call this function. If the time is less than the spawn time count, start acting on it. So that will, let's say, like as you can see on the script here, it's a 2-second delay. After the 2 seconds hit 0, it will spawn the item, instantiating it, allowing it to appear. And then next will be, it will set the next spawn time plus the spawn delay. So each time it will just be 2 seconds till it spawns. But if with this else here, it will check to see if there's an item already spawned, which there is. It will delay that spawn timer, allowing the pickup to not override each other and just keep spawning. And then once you go and finally pick up the item, you have like 50 health pickups instead of just one. And that is the exact same for damage and etc. The next one, UI for player health. So what I decided to do is a health bar in Canvas. So right here on my health bar here, I have a health bar script with a slider and a fill image. So on the health bar, I have a border, and then I have a fill with color. But on the health bar itself, I have a script here that is going to call the slider for the health, and then it has a gradient to kind of change colors as you take damage. And then what the fill does is it fills the image with the colors. So these two functions here, it will set the max health that the player has. So the max value is currently 10 with the health. And then as you take damage, it will then change the slider value to fit the player's health. And then what this fill color is, it just allows the health bar to change colors, so from green to yellow to red. And then what this does is it sets the health based on the current value that the player is. So when he plays the game or starts up, he will be at 10 health, and that's what we'll showcase on screen. But if I go ahead and go to the health script here, I have a health bar script referencing health bar. At start, it will then set the health based on whatever the health is at the player. And then as the player takes damage or gains health, it will update the health bar. So I'll just go ahead and game here and showcase it. So at the moment, as you can see, the max health for the player is 10, and the current health for the player is 10. But if I go to the health bar, the value, as you can see, is 10. So with earlier, as you saw, like the player took damage. If I go ahead and go over this, he took 5 damage, and the current health right now is at 5. And the health bar went down. So if I go to the slider here, it also went down by 5. But if I click this health pickup, I'll go up by 1, allowing the health bar to change to green because the player is more than 50% health now. And if I go back, it will showcase that the value also changed to 6. So that is the kind of the UI for the player right now and how it works. I kind of really like this system because it showcases how damaged the player is and it adds more realism. The next one is killable target. Show that the player can damage an object in the world and show that the object, when it is destroyed, have it, be destroyed. So as you can see here, if I click play, there is nothing here. But I do have an enemy pop up that spawns in. Right now he's just a gigantic square that does nothing. But if I go ahead and showcase him, he has the enemy script with health. So if I go ahead and shoot this enemy, his health will go down by 5. And then if I hit him again, he will then be destroyed because his health is now 0. So how this works is it's similar to the player. The only difference is he has his own little take damage function. And then when the projectile hits the enemy that has the tag with it, that thing will take damage and then therefore be destroyed. Target respawns over time. So this goes in with the spawn system here, where the designer can go ahead and set how long they want the enemy to be spawned in, if they want a delay, if stuff like that. So that's currently the enemy. Right now, if I set it to 1, it'll then spawn that enemy in 1 second, and then it won't create another enemy at least until this enemy is destroyed. So now that that enemy's gone, it will then respawn the enemy again, and then you can just keep killing enemies if you want. So that is the target respawns over time system. It's the exact same setup as the inheritance with the pickup, where if the player or if the pickup respawns during a set time, stuff like that. Well commented code. So all of my code is commented stating like what they do. This will check, we'll call the health script attached to the player and deal damage. The pickup script, this will check to see if there is an item or an enemy that has spawned in. If so, check the spawn time. If there's no enemy there, create an enemy. If there is an enemy, delay the spawn time and then restart it. Same with health. I have a bunch of comments stating what each of these do. Damage, etc. Projectile as well. The health bar script showcasing what each of these do. Same thing with the pickups, how if you trigger into this, the player can collide with it, pick it up. This will destroy the object if the player collides with it. Same with damage, similar thing. If I go to pawn, it is also similar where it showcases what each of these do. Parents the weapon, instantiates weapon, rotation, equip the weapon, unequip the weapon, etc. So as you can see, the code is well commented explaining what each of them do, stuff like that. Right now I don't have any new mechanic in the game because I'm trying to figure out the equipped weapon system, but once I do figure that out, then I'll add a new mechanic, and then I will update this as well. But that is currently what I have for you, so let me know if there's something I can do to fix this stuff or edit or add. Yeah.